Welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Darian Smith. And guys, it's finally game week again. We can turn the page from that Liberty game as our UAB Blazers host Georgia Southern at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time in Protective Stadium. If you can't make it out, the game will be televised on Stadium. But Darian, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, John. I'm ready to start anew and start focusing on Georgia Southern, and I'm just excited to see how the team responds. We historically we've always responded well. I hate that it always seems to have to come down to this. I think I saw a couple of fans on Twitter saying that like we don't want to be a team that has to respond early in the season. We want to be able to take that next step, but we're here now and it's a long season. You mentioned that, like, it's a long season, and if we get a good win against a good Georgia Southern team at home after all that bad vibes and juju, if we have a good showing from coach and we have a good showing from our team holding on to the ball and winning the turnover battle, I think we can get a lot of that bad energy off of us.
Definitely agree. It's all about going 1-0 this week, and you've seen a lot of the coaches, say that on Twitter too. And it's really just a 1-0 mentality. Again, hate what happened in Lynchburg, Virginia. Guys, if you missed our Liberty game recap, go back. It's the previous episode, about 29 minutes. But we definitely get out our frustration on that episode. So we're not going to rehash. We might talk a little bit about comparing Liberty game to Georgia Southern in a little bit. But as far as in particular, just discussing that game, we are not going to do that this episode. We are, as we said earlier, turning the page. But definitely, if you missed it, go back and listen to our Liberty game recap. Also, if you haven't done so already, definitely help support the Blazer Victory Podcast by buying some merch. You can go to www.storefrontier.com/blazerpod. Again, we have shirts and hoodies, so definitely get you one and get one for a significant other or for a kid or whatever. But definitely go click on the link in the podcast description. In a few minutes, guys, we will roll our interview that we had with Matt Mauney and Cody Anderson from the GATA Talk podcast. Those guys do a great job just covering Georgia Southern football. And as I mentioned in the interview, they've been doing this for years. They've been doing this for longer than we have here at the Blazer Victory podcast. So I definitely respect their opinion and I respect their insight that they had, heading into this game just from the Georgia Southern perspective. But definitely give them a follow on Twitter at GATA Talk Podcast. And we're dropping this episode Tuesday morning. I think they said in the interview they're dropping theirs Tuesday, if not Tuesday, Wednesday. So definitely go give their UAB preview episode a listen. But I guess let's just talk about Georgia Southern, Darren. Just some general thoughts on Georgia Southern. It's crazy to me that these programs are meeting on the field for the first time ever on the football field. I mean, you look at the connections between these two programs. I mean, UAB fans know Brian Ellis. Darren, I know you know Brian Ellis really well from your playing days at
That's
UAB.
my guy.
I mean, he's your guy. Yeah, he's the offensive coordinator at Georgia Southern. Also look at their offensive line coach, Richard Owens. He spent a few years here at UAB and with Bryant Vincent. And hey, we took one of their linebackers, Renard Ellis, transferred. Right. He transferred from Georgia Southern, all Sun Belt player, fantastic player. We've got him on our team. So there's just so many connections between these two programs. And, Georgia Southern has a very proud and rich, tradition-rich history. Now, traditionally speaking, they have run the triple option and just various different versions of the option in their programs past. This year, they're turning the page, under Brian Ellis and Clay Helton. They're kind of gone to more of an empty look, spread style offense, throwing it around, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. Now, it's not fun to play against, but it has been fun to at least study them on film through two games. Would you agree, Darian?
Yes. Just looking at them, the team just says a lot about Brian Ellis. I remember, just playing with the man, and he was not an athlete. Like, everybody knew that he was not a guy that was going to run around on you, but man, he didn't need to. He was so smart. Me and him, we were really in sync. We were really in sync with each other. Me being the center, him being the quarterback, and we both like to play with intelligence. We like to use our IQ to take advantage of the game, and I see that in this offense as him as a coordinator. Man, I'm looking at them play Nebraska. I'm just like, oh man, like so many different sets. They throw so much at you. It is so much fun to watch. You see 4 wide, 5 wide motion, and they'll run the ball. But what I like best is the balance. It's like they take what the defense is giving them. They spread you out, and they will use the whole field. They'll bomb it downfield on you. They'll quick screen on you. They'll go from side to side. They'll flea flicker. They'll run the ball. You think you're gonna stop their passing team? I'm a put one linebacker. I'm gonna go a dime look. Put one linebacker in for a dime lineman, and they will run. They will take it to the house. They have 2 good running backs, and they have 3 good receivers, and they have some reliable tight ends. They are so well schemed and coached on offense that they're just taking advantage of what the defense gives them. And they have a quarterback, the transfer Van Treese from Buffalo. He's experienced. He's a slinger. One thing I do like about it is, like, historically, UAB has had trouble with athletes at quarterback. Now, Van Treese is not a guy that's going to run the ball on you.
He's not a dual threat. Yeah.
No, he reminds me a lot of what Brian was. He was a guy that was going to make good decisions now. But the thing about it is, they've been doing a good job of putting him in good positions, and they get the ball out quick. It's hard to get to them. It's hard to sack them. They got a good pass pro offensive line, but they throw the ball fast, and they just set their team up in good position. They keep you off balance, and they keep you honest enough to where you can't go and just think they're one-dimensional, because you like, as soon as you think they're a passing team, bam, they're gonna keep pounding it on you. And they keep you so honest. Not only that, they're not afraid to run a reverse, run a drag screen to wide receivers. They're gonna go across the middle. They're gonna go vertically. They do everything, and I'm just like, this is so dreamy. It is not one-dimensional. So it is fun to watch. And I think stylistically against our defense, I think our corners, I think this is the game that our corners will shine. But just eliminating the threat of him, being a running guy, I think that does help our defense, because historically, we did good against Salter. We have a good, and we are very deep, very, very deep at corner and at safety. So I'm so excited for this matchup for our defense.
Me too. And just not only speaking about how, the stats that this offense has put out, but I mean, this Georgia Southern team is just very disciplined under Clay Helton. Like, you look at the big win in Nebraska this past Saturday, 45-42, only 3 penalties, penalties for 15 yards. And you look at the first game against FCS Morgan State, only 3 penalties. So this is a very disciplined team under Clay Helton. And yeah, man, it's fun watching that offense, and especially under that Buffalo quarterback transfer, the quarterback transfer from Buffalo, Van Treese. Like, you look at him, he's very smart with the ball. He's not afraid to sling it. He threw it 56 times in Lincoln, Nebraska. Not only that, he is tough. Like, you look at that last drive of the game to get the game, to win the game at the goal line, not being shy to go take the ball by himself and run to the end zone while getting hit by 3 Nebraska players for the game-winning touchdown. I mean, this is a tough guy, and I just think, that just speaks a whole lot about this Georgia Southern program. And, I mean, the Clay Helton, I mean, it's just 2 games, but he seems to really have this team clicking, especially on the offensive side of the ball under Brian Ellis as offensive coordinator. But as you mentioned, I mean, there's a couple other guys on that offense, Darian, and you mentioned the running backs. Gerald Green, 5'9", 195, the junior. He had 10 rushes for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game against Nebraska. And right behind him, Jalen White, 6 foot, 215, had 17 rushes for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it seems, looking at the film of this Georgia Southern offense, they throw the ball to help set up their run game, which is very important, because it seems that UAB likes to do the opposite, where we try to establish the run game to open up the pass game. So it really seems like this week, Darian, we're going to get another clash of styles between these 2 programs.
Right, but the thing about Georgia Southern, like you said, they throw the ball to set up the run, but they don't. I think I think what I'm looking forward to seeing from my coaches, but is don't try to force it. Like
Yep.
we said it in the beginning, like they take what's given. Okay, we got you to get all those guys out the box, and bam. Now we're gonna keep you honest. We're gonna
Right.
trust our guys. And I felt like just rewatching that Liberty game, like we didn't do that. I don't know if it's because of the rainy, wet conditions, and they may have been a point of emphasis because it was so wet and it probably was hard to throw the ball and catch the ball. So we got to take that into account that we probably wanted to be more conservative and keep it on the ground. And maybe that style would have worked if we would have held on to the freaking ball.
That's it, man. That it was working. If we would have just held onto the ball, it would have worked. And hey,
Yeah.
in the interview that we had with the guys from GATA Talk, I mean, that was exactly what they said. Their defensive coordinator is coming into this, with the mindset, hey, that we're gonna have to force some turnovers to, get the win in Birmingham. And I bet they're licking their chops after watching that Liberty film.
Yeah, I bet they are. But we all know that historically, as I mentioned, that we are a good team at responding, and a lot of times we have those games where we feel let down, but we do come back and we work on those things. So let's imagine that Debo and Skull and Starling, we don't have those fumbles, or at least if we fumble the ball, we get on top of it and we recover at least two of them. That game is totally different. And maybe I'm not sitting here, maybe me and you, John, we're not sitting here complaining about, the play style.
Right.
I think I would have liked to see adjustments, and I think that's what I was upset about. You can only kind of we turned one dimensional. We turned it to Southern Miss basically. We were
No, don't say that.
Yeah, we turned it to Southern Miss. Like what
Yeah.
did we just kept on? Hey, we're getting stopped on a run. They're bringing safeties down. Guess what? We're gonna run it some more. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
can we trust our quarterback and can we trust our receivers? Do we trust them? Because now we put them in a adverse situation to throw the ball when we have to, and when the other team knows, and it's not a good situation to be in. I want to see more balance. I want to see our guys hold on to the ball, and then maybe we can enforce our will, because as we know, John, this is going to be another clash of styles again.
Definitely. And I do just want to highlight just two more players on the offensive side of the ball for Southern, and that's Derwin Burgess and Caleb Hood. I mean, they've got some playmakers at the wide receiver position for Georgia Southern. And guys, this offense is no joke. I mean, we've gone over some stats. We talked about them. I mean, but through two games, they've already scored 104 points and gained 1,146 total yards. And one of those games was against Nebraska, a Power 5 opponent. And I see so many UAB fans on social media and forums and whatnot saying, hey, it was Nebraska. I don't care. It was still a Power 5 opponent.
Exactly.
I mean, that's something. Hey, that's something UAB can't say. I mean, when's the last time we beat a Power 5 opponent? I mean, go back to what, Baylor or Mississippi State, like 20-something years ago? Like, I don't care. Like, they went into a tough environment in Lincoln, Nebraska, and pulled out a 45-42 win and scored 45 points, man, and 642 total yards. Like,
and got Scott Frost fired.
Hey, yep. Hey, getting that extra $7 million now. But hey, yeah, got the man done. But hey, yeah, I think I'm excited to just see the defense. Our defense, Darian. I think it's going to be a big test, and I know our defense will be up to the test. I mean, like you just mentioned, like we said on the last episode, our defense did not lose us that game in Lynchburg against Liberty.
Yeah.
Our offense lost the game. Special teams lost it. Yeah, defense did their job, man.
Defense answered the call time and time again. How many times we gonna put them on the field before they just get tired? Like we can't keep doing it. I know we got a deep team, but man, we put them in an adverse situation and they only gave up 21 points. Like we can't ask for more. Yeah, they probably had a drive or two where Liberty drove it down on them, but that's okay. Like at least we made Liberty make plays. They have playmakers, and the funny thing is when I look at this Georgia Southern team, I don't see that Demario Douglas. I don't see it like a Trey Shropshire. Like they don't have those guys that's just like, oh my God, it's the sum of the parts.
Right.
I don't see a great guy per se, and this is no shot. Like, I don't want nobody to think I'm taking a shot. I'm actually giving a compliment here because it's like they play so connected.
Yes.
They're so well coached and they know the scheme. They know what they want to do. They don't have to have that game breaker that they're leaning on. I feel like their game breaker is the GATA guy said is the quarterback because the way he uses his mind, he spread the ball out. He's just efficient and he's smart and he's like almost like another coach on the field. And they have those receivers. They don't have that guy that's just gonna hold your breath, but all of them going to be in the right spots at the right time. And if the ball hits them in the hand, they'll catch the ball. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So they just use what they have and they use it so smartly. I think that it'll be a good test for our defense, especially for our corners, and we're going to really see how deep we are. We're gonna really see if our linebackers can really rush the passer. I think Renard Ellis will have, some extra motivation out on that edge.
Yes.
So I'm very curious.
Well, let's kind of look at the other side of the Georgia Southern, looking at their defense. And I think if you had to pick a weakness, it would be the defense for Georgia Southern. I mean, they only brought back 5 starters from last year's team. They've switched to more of a 4-man front, going like a 4-3 look. They love to bring pressure, especially off the edge. You'll hear that in our interview with the GATA talk guys. But I mean, they're not afraid to bring pressure. They'll blitz a lot. They've got 3 sacks through 2 games. The guy that really pops out the film to me is their defensive lineman, Justin Ellis. He's a senior, 6'2", 255. I mean, he had 36 tackles last year. He's already got 10 tackles this year. Had 5 sacks last year. But just looking at the defense as a whole, and you mentioned this in our interview with them, Darian, like they're more of a bend but not break type of defense. And you really do see that, looking at the film, giving up 42 points to Nebraska, giving up a lot of yards to a FCS team, Morgan State. But what I really like with this matchup is they've got a very suspect rushing defense. It almost kind of reminds you of Liberty last week. I mean, this team, this rush defense, they've given up 257 yards rushing to Nebraska. That's about 5.5 yards per rush if you break it down. And then going to the Morgan State, they gave up 172 rushing yards. So that's about 5.4 yards per rush. So if UAB can get Debo and Skull going and just hold on to the ball this time, put them away early, I like it, Darian. It's so weird. Like, you look at this defense, and it really does kind of remind you of Liberty. Maybe not. Well, no, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to knock this defense. They've got some playmakers up front. But it really just reminds you of what UAB saw last week. So that's got to help UAB heading into this matchup. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I actually think, me personally, I think Liberty had way more playmakers on defense.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say.
Like, when I look at it, I remember looking at the film on Liberty. I saw some cornerback play that was really good. I think we were able to see that against us. And I look back at this team, and I don't see the same speed. I don't see the same. I don't see those dogs in that backfield, in that defensive backfield. I mean, they just don't make plays. I didn't see that. And up front, Liberty had guys. They had some guys, and we were able to gas them. But even though they got help from safeties and linebackers were aggressive, they came down. They were. They started getting after our offensive line. Mm-hmm. They started bringing the heat towards us, and they really adjusted in that second half, and we couldn't run the ball, and we definitely couldn't pass the ball because they were on us so much. I see opportunistic from Georgia Southern. Here and there, they can pop. They can have some guys that can get in the backfield on you on the edges. But they don't have the same guys inside that Liberty had. Like, the sum of the parts on defense is not what we saw.
Right.
So hopefully we get good weather, and this will be a style clash again. And I think it's going to depend on us holding the ball and running it, and not letting our defense get some rest this time. Us holding on to the ball.
Please
hold on to the ball. Let's not be dumb and get stupid penalties and put ourselves in bad situations. But I see a lot more room for us to just we're a better rushing offense than Nebraska.
Oh yeah.
We're physical. You see the running backs we have, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna preach ball security. I mean, come on now. You know that's what they're gonna be on the all week in practice. So we hold on to the ball, and I think just knowing that team, they're not dumb. They're gonna try to force us to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between that is if they stack the box on us, our receivers are better than their corners. Point blank, period.
Yeah.
Our receivers can beat those guys, and we have the quarterbacks that can deliver on these guys. So there's a lot of opportunity for our offense to get back on track. And I think we should have a very balanced game against them. I think we're gonna bruise them. If I was them against us, I would stack the box immediately.
Yeah, I would too.
Let's not play this game. Let's go ahead and get it out the way. We're gonna stack the box and beat us throwing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do. So
make them prove it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I wonder if our coaching staff on offense, I wonder if we're gonna try to force the run. I'm gonna be really upset if we just try to force it and they got the numbers against us to prevent the run. So I hope we don't try to impose our will. I hope we take what's given to us because we have a more balanced team than what we show.
I agree. Well, Darian, before we give our predictions, this is just something I wanted to ask you, and I'm pretty sure you would agree with me, but wouldn't you say this is a must-win game for this UAB football team?
Must win. I think this is a more of a must win for Brian Vincent than it is for the team because this is still early in the season, and this is a good Georgia Southern team. I'm not gonna take anything away from them, but must win is tough because I know how long now it'll suck sitting here 1-2 at this time of the season.
And then heading into the bye week, yeah. But that's why for me, Darian, it is a must-win game because if UAB drops this and goes to 1-2 heading into the bye week, it's like, what are we doing? Like at that point, like you don't want to. I mean, of course, the Conference USA season, the championship's still available, but I mean, you drop 2 in a row, non-conference, and heading into your bye week, and then like. I don't know. I'm just worried the wheels might fall off. And that's why I'm saying it is a must win. Like, I don't care if it's a non-conference game, and I know how talented Georgia Southern is. And we saw it in Lincoln, Nebraska Saturday. We know how talented this team is, but this is, in my opinion, a must definitely win game for UAB. Like if UAB loses this game, I'm going to be worried about a bowl game, to be honest. It scares me. So, but as you mentioned earlier in the show, UAB is traditionally a really good bounce back team program. Like, we've always had, for whatever reason, we've always been bitten by that week 2 bug. Like we can't ever get over the hump on getting the win in week 2 of the season. And we always come back motivated and play well in that third game. And I think Bryant Vincent will have the guys ready. I really do. Like if they can just preach ball security. And I didn't say this in the recap episode last week, but to be honest, if Debo fumbles it again, put him on the bench. I mean, you got AJ Gates, you got Lee Witherspoon, you got some guys. Hey, if you're going to fumble it multiple times, you can sit on the bench. Right. And I know as talented of a player Debo, doesn't want to hear that. And I know Bryant Vincent spoke in his press conference Monday. Debo was torn up about it. Debo and Skull were torn up about it. And I know that they work their butts off in practice every day, and that's just not like them to turn the ball over like that. And you go back to last season with Debo fumble it twice in the Jacksonville State opener last year, and he, got it together after that. So I think he will, but I'm just saying, man, if he does it again, sit on the bench and next guy up because we can't have that.
Yeah, and especially against this team they're gonna just be opportunistic on defense.
Right.
I don't think they'll be able to stop us, especially if our coaching staff on offense, especially if they really help this team out, if they help the running backs and help the team create the space needed for the running backs to work. If we can just keep them honest with our passing game and back their safeties up to where they have to respect us, there is no way in Hades they want to cuss So,
Right.
there's no way in Hades that they'll be able to stop us running
Right.
the ball. Just no way. I don't see it. There's it's just like physically impossible, But they're gonna be opportunistic, and they're gonna take their shots trying to punch the ball out. Because if I'm a defensive coordinator looking at film, I'm gonna say, they look at these guys, loosey goosey with the ball. I mean, it'll be there if we want it. So honestly, and that may bode well for us because sometimes defensive players they get too, if that's part of the game plan, they get too caught up in that, and they try to poke balls out and whatever. And you can run right through their face
Instead of tackling. Yeah, they try to punch that ball out. Yeah,
I've seen it happen. You say, "Oh, look at this team. They don't care about ball security." So it actually might work out in our favor, and hopefully the weather be good. And I look for 250 plus yards on the ground. And I look for us to really keep them honest, play action, first down, 1st and 10, 2nd and 4, let's go deep on them. Let's use the field and let's quarterback draw. I'm upset that I didn't get to see the quarterback draw that game. Let's keep them on their toes like they're going to keep us on our toes. They're going to throw a lot at us, a lot of looks offensively. You will see, they go out in a lot of different sets. They're going to spread us out. They'll run the ball through in those sets. They'll throw quick screens. They'll go everything you want. They'll give it to you. I want us to kind of at least try to give some of that. I know we're going to impose the running game, but hey, it's okay. We can throw the ball. So I'm looking forward to us just taking advantage of them and really controlling the ball, especially if our defense gets a 3 and out on these guys.
Yes.
Let's take advantage of it, man. These aren't on offense. These guys ain't nothing to play with. So let's reward our defense this time. And I think we can put them away early. Like the potential is there.
Me too.
But the potential was there versus Liberty, and we didn't do it. So
exactly.
Hey, here we are.
All right, Darren. But let's go ahead and give our score predictions. I've got before looking at film and studying this matchup, I was honestly worried that Georgia Southern really might come in here and get the win, but I've got it as a close final. UAB 21, Georgia Southern 17. I've got it close, but again, key is getting that ground game going early and don't fumble the ball, and just like Darian just said, try to get that passing game involved more. I know Dylan missed a few throws that he wanted back from the Liberty game, and I don't know if the rain contributed to that or him getting hit a few times contributed to it. But I know that he's better than what we saw in Lynchburg last Saturday. But Darren, what's your prediction on this game?
Yeah, I'm surprised that you went kind of defensive struggle kind of game. I got it totally opposite. I probably got it 38-35 UAB.
Okay. So you see a higher scoring.
Yeah, I think it's higher scoring. I think I think we can keep them under 35. I think if our defense, if we are opportunistic, and if we one thing about Van Treese is, like, if you get pressure on him, and he's kind of like Brian Ellis. Brian Ellis was a gunslinger. Brian Ellis was gonna take his shots. He was gonna throw the ball, and he understood, like, hey, picks are part of the game. I'm gonna take my shots. Van Treese has that same gunslinger mentality. He'll give you opportunities because he's gonna believe in himself. But I think we have the better athletes, and I think we can. I believe we can make the plays if they're there. So I think if we get pressure on them, he's not going to be able to run around and make plays. He's going to throw the ball under pressure. So, especially going downfield, I think we can. If we can get a couple turnovers like that, I think we can probably. We'll have to take advantage of the turnovers. But assuming that our offense take advantage of the turnovers, I think we can probably win more like a 41-21 type of game.
I like it. And Darian, I'm hoping we have a good recap episode.
Please. I wanna brag on the adjustments our coaching staff made. That's what I really want to do. Cause I do not like kind of
nobody likes what we did last Saturday night.
It's awful.
It is, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, like it's awkward having to criticize the team that you love and the players that you support and the coaching staff that you actually support, but we have to give our fair assessment of the game. We can't just be, UAB green and gold, rose color glasses on all the time. We can't be all comfy. Like we got to just give a fair assessment, and we have to say what we see. We just report what we see. So trust me, as soon as Brian Vincent, and all these guys, as soon as they come out here and they put together, they're gonna put together a great offensive game plan. David Reeves in the defense, of course, is gonna be lights out, and we're gonna brag on them when they do it. That's what's gonna happen, John.
Definitely. I can feel it, man. Well, guys, hey, if you're not subscribed to the podcast already, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching us right now, whether that's on YouTube, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss any future episodes. And, hey, share us with others. Tweet it out, post it on a forum, share it on Facebook, wherever. But tell other UAB fans about the Blazer Victory podcast and help us get the word out for more Blazer fans to give us a listen. But guys, without further ado, we'll go ahead and roll our interview that we had with Matt Mauney and Cody Anderson from the GATA Talk podcast. Again, give them a follow on Twitter at GATA Talk podcast. But without further adu,
hey John, really quick, can you officially let them know? Because I think you had a real calming sense about you. I was the more upset one, and you were very calm. So could you just let them know that this is the official turn of the page right here, right now? Could you reassure our guys?
We are officially turning the page. We're moving on from Lynchburg. We're holding on to the ball starting this Saturday in Protective Stadium, and we're going to go on a 10-0 streak to close the regular season and get to that Conference USA championship and hopefully win a couple more.
Woo, John got me fired up. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Blazer Victory podcast, where we are pleased to be joined by Matt Mauney and Cody Anderson of the GATA Talk podcast. Guys, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. I've it's been a while since I've listened to you guys, but I did listen a couple years ago, back when I was running a Group of Five podcast. You guys do great work. Obviously, Georgia Southern, I feel like the program has been kind of on a roller coaster lately these last few years. But it seems that you guys might have the right guy. At least, I know it's early in the season and, in his tenure, but just got probably one of arguably the biggest wins in program history over Nebraska. But first off, would you guys agree to that might be one of the best wins in program history? I know Southern has definitely knocked off some big boys before.
Yeah, so it was our second Power 5 win, but first as an FBS program. So the first one came in 2013 in our first transition year when we were still technically an FCS team. Jeff Munkin was coaching that team, and we knocked off the University of Florida in the Swamp. So I was there for that game. I was lucky enough to be in Lincoln, Nebraska just a couple days ago to see this one. And yeah, both atmospheres were electric. I'd definitely say Nebraska even more so because we caught Florida at the tail end of the season in Muschamp's last year there. And obviously the vibes weren't very high. But I don't know. I haven't really discussed this yet with Cody, so I don't know his feelings, but it's definitely up there. It's in the top 2, I would say, with that Florida game.
I would say as far as name recognition, like brands of college football brands, obviously the biggest brand we've taken down, I would say. Because even that Florida team we beat in 2013, they were kind of ravished with injuries. As Matt said, it was like the end of the Muschamp era, and people were just kind of ready to get that over with.
Yep.
But I think this is just the biggest brand we've taken down. As far as like big-time victories, I don't know, man. Anytime you beat a ranked App State team, that's always going to be big in my book.
Right.
Right.
Whenever we have a chance to ruin their season, that's great. But yeah, for sure, biggest brand that we've taken down easily, I think, is this game that we just had.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, going off of that game, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was shocked to see Georgia Southern, compete with Nebraska. But were you guys shocked to see the result of the game? Like, I mean, were y'all shocked, or was this just something that you maybe saw coming, the way Nebraska was trending down? Or
I will let Matt take this first, and I'll jump in.
Yeah, I wouldn't say shocked. I mean, Cody and I, we wanted a competitive game. We knew we could be competitive, but after week one of the Clay Helton era against Morgan State, overmatched FCS opponent, winning 59-7 there. We didn't know. There was just so many question marks. So we knew the offense could be good, but just the second week, transitioning away from run heavy offense to more not air raid style, but certainly more passing heavy, throwing the ball more than 50 times a game against Nebraska. So we didn't know what that was going to look like against a much more talented defense. And it was clicking on all cylinders. I mean, we got off to a faster start than we did against Morgan State, and just matched them toe to toe pretty much the whole game. So I wouldn't say shocked, but I mean, certainly it surpassed my expectations, I guess. I think Cody and I just both wanted a competitive football game and a composed team showing up. We historically haven't been great on the road the last couple of years. So those were kind of the things we were looking for, and we obviously met those expectations and then some.
Yeah, the harp on the road aspect, we have not been a great road team at all, to be honest, or a very good one. And there were a couple of things that we talked about in the previous podcast episode that we had leading up to this, that if they did these couple of things, it would put us in a position to win. And one was the fast start that we talked about, and one was turnovers. And we almost pushed the bank on that one, to be honest with you. We committed 2 turnovers, and they turned that into 14 points. So we put ourselves in a position in the fourth quarter to win the game, and that's what we asked. And we thought if we were there, we could do it, considering Nebraska's recent history and just kind of all of that ongoing drama and situation that they had going up there in Lincoln.
Yep. Yeah. So guys, just for our listeners, I would like for you guys to explain the biggest differences between the Georgia Southern of last year versus this year. What is the big difference for you guys, and what's making this turnaround spark like this?
Everything.
Short answer, yeah, for sure. Multi-dimensional comes to mind, right? Especially offensively. We obviously have been one-dimensional for the last several years. I mean, you could argue our entire history. Right. There are certainly times where we ran that one-dimensional offense of, back in the glory days of the triple option to perfection, and it obviously worked. But the game of football is changing, and we and defenses are getting privy to it and more talented every year, scheming for it. So I think that's the biggest thing. Again, just like going from Morgan State to a much more talented team in Nebraska, of seeing how we attack that defense, and we threw everything at them. I mean, they honestly didn't have an answer for what we were doing offensively. The play calling was fantastic. And I mean, the second they're, we're throwing it over the top, and then they open up the middle and we're running it down their throat. And it was just great to see, because like I said, that's just hasn't been the case for so many years. So that and just great coaching. Again, just play calling was great. And having a leader like Clay Helton has helped a ton.
Yeah, and to jump on that, this new offense uses, I feel like, the entire width of the field as well as the vertical aspect of it. Whereas I think the gun option or pistol option or whatever it was that we've been trying to do since really 2016 feels like it's just a containment within the hashes or within the hashes in the boundary. And when you shorten the field like that, all you do is help defenses. And I feel like they kind of figured it out. And we never adjusted, whether it was the best or Ruse or whoever was the OC at the time, just didn't try to change up their offense or give a different look or anything like that. So with Ellis, I feel like that's not the case. He uses the width of the field. If a defense is presenting this look, he has an answer for it, or he's at least going to make an adjustment to find an answer for it. At least so far within his first 2 games.
Yep.
I'm so happy for you guys. that sounds so lovely. So lovely. Okay, so who are some of your guys' star players you think we should look out for?
I mean, easy answer is going to be Calvin Treese, right? National Player of the Week. It was just named quarterback. Yeah, I mean, transfer from University of Buffalo. He played in Nebraska in Lincoln last year. Obviously in a loss with Buffalo, but he knew that environment well. I mean, you talk about poised and composed. That was one of the best leadership experiences I've ever seen in my days following Georgia Southern. So that's the easy answer. Yeah, Cody, I'll let you jump in with some other ones.
Goodness, you got Singleton in receiver as well as Caleb Hood and Burgess Jr. Those three receivers are going to pop out, and they have throughout the first two games. I believe they're all three in the top 10 in the conference as far as receiving so far. Obviously, you got Gerald Green and you got Jalen White as our 1-2 punch at running back. And then you also have a true freshman that has played quite a bit in the first game. Didn't really see the field besides some kickoff returns, I believe, and O.J. Arnold. And he's a fast, dynamic back. And even though he's a true freshman, if he's in the game, he's just as deadly as the other two that I mentioned. So that, and then I would say probably as like an offensive sleeper is probably Bo Johnson, a tight end, as well as J.J. McAfee. Those two guys are good sized blocking tight ends, but they can run routes and they're fast and present matchups that are difficult for defenses to defend. Whether you put a linebacker on them or a safety on them, they'll be open to get the ball.
And looking at this Georgia Southern offense this year, I mean, what are the fans' reactions? Because I mean, this program has built itself on the triple option, and developing that option over the last years, and it feels like every time this program has moved away from the option, they've kind of taken a step back. But looking at two games at the Helton era, I mean, it looks like they're kind of taking a step forward. And I mean, are you guys surprised how quick this is happening? Or do you think maybe the portal with, bringing a guy like, you just mentioned Van Treese in from Buffalo, like can really help transition an offense quickly nowadays?
Yeah, that certainly helps. And Cody and I talked about that on the podcast is like, that was everyone, all the pundits out there. I mean, even the ones pretty close to, of other teams in the Sun Belt Conference were saying, it's going to take 2, 3, 4 years for us to do this transition, right? Comparing us to in-state school and Georgia Tech, right? But obviously, they went from flexbone triple option, Paul Johnson style, which we know well, to what Jeff Collins is trying to run in the spread attack. Ours, we were pistol gun, run heavy, not really true triple option in kind of the base play call set. And that was a point we brought up on the podcast was with the transfer portal being able to bring in a 6-year senior into Calvin Treese, being able to bring in a Jeremy Singleton from Houston, that transition can be made much easier. So that's a huge thing. To answer, are we surprised? I frankly am. I mean, again, we're only 2 games in. I mean, the wheels could fall off from here. Who knows? But I mean, we've definitely started a lot faster than I expected. I mean, we're second best offense in the country right now. And just seeing Georgia Southern's name in a top 10 list of passing is just a crazy, crazy experience. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it continues from here. And yeah, I definitely think the transfer portal has made a huge difference in making those transitions easier.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I just want to say I think the really the big question mark was what kind of offense was Coach Ellis going to bring.
Yeah.
If you look at when he was the coordinator the first 2 years at Western Kentucky, they didn't have great, at least points per game numbers. And then they bring in the coordinator from Houston Baptist, who's now at Texas Tech, and their offense explodes. And we were kind of just questioning, well, which offense are we going to get? Are we going to get what Western Kentucky had last year, or are we going to get what he was running under Tyson Helton the first 2 years he was there?
Yeah. And I think the matchup that everybody is going to be looking for this game is going to be you guys' offense versus our defense. Our defense performed very admirably against Liberty this past week, and I feel like they really did their job, and our offense didn't come through, and we put our defense in a bad position. And you guys' offense is so explosive. But I am curious to see our offense to see if we're going to be able to bounce back against you guys' defense. I don't know much about you guys defensively. I don't know how you guys feel about your team. What you got for us?
Yeah, I'm not sure we know that much about it,
No.
to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, first year under Will Harris, defensive back coach coming from University of Washington. Obviously, coached a bunch of NFL players there, sending people to the draft every year. We switched up schemes, playing more defensive backs. But yeah, I mean, again, the Morgan State game can't take a ton of takeaways away from that. And then it was just a scoring fest against Nebraska. I mean, we did make some key stops. Did not force any turnovers. That was, like Cody said earlier, that was kind of a key for me. If we were to win, they actually won the turnover battle, and we still pulled it out. But I would say against UAB and moving forward, I mean, we want to force 3 turnovers a game. That's Will Harris saying that, not me. So I think I don't see many more games, if any more games this year, where we lose the turnover battle and win the game.
Yeah, I think that just to say our biggest weakness so far appears to be our rush defense, which bodes well for y'all because your rush offense is fantastic. And so I really think it's just going to be a style matchup. Can you control the ball and tempo with your run game and keep offense off the field, and at the same time make the most of your opportunities and put points on the board?
Yep.
See, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Because, I mean, you look at, even the Morgan State game, I didn't get to watch all that game, but looking at some highlights, it looks like even Morgan State was able to kind of run the ball on you guys a little bit.
They were. They had a running back that was pretty speedy. That could get to the outside or hit the hole pretty quick. And he had over half their total yards between rushing and receiving. So,
It's just looking at you guys' defense. What I did see, I saw a defense that's trying to be bend but don't break, and that's opportunistic. I saw you guys can get some sacks, you guys can come up with timely plays. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I would say so.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, I think, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems most of the time just looking at the defense, it looks like that you guys like to run a 4-3 most of the time. It looks like you guys aren't afraid to bring pressure. You blitz a lot. And we've already got 3 sacks through 2 games. But what guy that really pops off to me when looking at the film is defensive lineman Justin Ellis. I know he's a senior, 6'2", 255, already have 10 tackles. Would you say that guy, that Justin Ellis is one of the leaders up front for the Georgia Southern defense this year?
Take it, Cody.
Yeah, he is, and he's a captain on the defense, or one of the captains on the defense. So yeah, he's one of the leaders for sure, and he's one of the defensive players that we expect day in, day out, game in, game out to come in and have big games for us. And if he doesn't, that's probably not going to bode well for us. So on that defensive line, it's really anchored by him and Dylan Springer. Those 2 guys, I think they're both on the edges. And if you can shut them down and not let them get pressure. If you watch the Nebraska game, they're both at times are getting into the backfield, forcing, I think he's in Casey Thompson, their quarterback, out. Yeah, to get out. And he did his job, which was to run. But we were able to kind of get some pressure on him, and there was some timely sacks or timely hits. But no, as far as Justin Ellis goes, yeah, he's definitely one of the leaders and one of the guys on defense that we have to have going.
Yeah, I'm very anxious for this game. For some reason, odds makers had us as a 13-point favorite. I'm here to tell.
Too many points.
Let me tell you guys that is, we don't feel that at all, but I felt like that was total disrespect to you guys, especially coming from that Nebraska win. And then I am so scared because you triggered me by saying this is going to be a clash of styles. And against Liberty, it was a clash of styles, and we had it what we wanted, and we could not keep the ball. We turned it over. We had 3 fumbles in the first half, and then we had another fumble in the second half, and that was murder she wrote. So and then I heard you mentioned the turnover battle 3+, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm already shivering and shaking. So I'm very, very anxious to see. I just wanted to let you guys know, like the fans, the UAB fans, we respect you guys. I feel like this game is a toss up. That's what I feel.
Yeah, probably. So. I mean, we're 2-0 against the spread so far this year, and it didn't look like we would cover against Morgan State at the start, and then really poured it on them in the second half, and then obviously Nebraska. That was a 23.5 spread. So it'll be interesting as the season progresses to see how those might shrink. I mean, obviously being on the road, hat tips in your favor, I think there with odds, but I mean, again, it's really going to be interesting to see consistency with just how we show up on the road. Can we respond after exceeding a lot of those expectations from everybody and going into Nebraska and getting the win of going back to not as crazy of an environment there in Birmingham, but again, still against a very good and well coached football team, and just see how we can respond back to back in road games.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question for us is mentally, how are we going to handle it? Coming off a very emotional high win, can we focus this week and actually mentally prepare for you all and come to work and actually put that game behind us? Because if we do, then I think you're right. I think we got a fair shot to really win this game. But if we don't, I think you're probably going to run through us, and we probably won't show up till the third quarter. And at that point, it may be too late.
Yeah.
So as far as the spread goes, it's interesting you brought that up because I've been thinking about that all day. I think the national media is looking at that game more of that Nebraska lost it than we won. I don't really feel like we got a whole lot of respect. Now, Group of Five media and Group of Five schools like y'all, some other, I think they see it the other way. Like we actually went in there and won. But most national stuff is saying I think Nebraska lost it, and they're just kind of pushing it off that way.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, honestly, it extends to all the Sun Belt teams. I mean, obviously, Marshall knocking off Notre Dame and App knocking off Texas A&M, not really getting a whole lot of respect in the polls or anything like that with votes. For all three, it definitely had the vibe of kind of, it was the other team that just had a complete meltdown and not the Sun Belt school showing up and being the more dominant team.
Craziness. I think the best thing that falls in our favor is historically we are a good bounce back team.
Right.
Especially after disappointing wins. We come back when you get our best effort. And we kind of figured out some things about ourselves. We saw the weaknesses because in our first game we weren't able to really see that. So I'm curious to see under Bryant Benson, our new head coach, against a good Georgia Southern team. Will we be able to have that bounce back game that historically we had under Clark? So I think we're getting each other both at good times. So I'm excited.
Definitely, and I'm just excited too that these programs are finally meeting on the field.
For sure.
I mean, like you look at the program connections between these two programs. Brian Ellis obviously played at UAB with Darian, and he's the offensive coordinator at Georgia Southern. You look at Richard Owens, the offensive line coach at Georgia Southern. He was at UAB for a while, and also linebacker Renard Ellis. Over from
one of our favorites. He was a favorite of the GATA Talk podcast for sure with Cody.
He's been really good for us.
Yeah. Yes, well, we're excited to just get this matchup going, and we'll hopefully make the trip to Statesboro next year. Are either one of you guys going to make it to Birmingham, or know anybody that's coming to Birmingham?
I don't. Matt lives in Denver. I'm in Statesboro, and I got my sister-in-law is getting married at 6:00 on Saturday, so I'm going to unfortunately miss the end of this game.
Tough choices.
I know, but I'd rather stay married and not have to deal with that alimony.
Understand.
Child support.
Yeah, my traveling's on pause for a while. It was a 7-hour one-way trip from Colorado to Lincoln, and I did that in like a 24-hour span. So I'll be watching this one on TV.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. Again, Matt Mauney and Cody Anderson of GATA Talk. Guys, go give them a listen. You can follow them on Twitter at GATA Talk Podcast. They've been doing this for longer than we have at Blazer Victory. They've been doing this for years. They put out great content. Guys, do you know when you're going to be doing your UAB preview so maybe Blazer fans can check it out?
We'll be recording right after this, actually. So probably, depending on when this comes out, we'll have it out midweek.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Well, all right, guys. Well, thanks again. And Darian and I will be back late Saturday night to give you guys an instant reaction to the UAB Georgia Southern game. But as always, guys, go Blazers.
Blazers.